Hey class, we talked about three-layer architecture in the previous talk, and here we are. We've talked about view layer. We've talked about MVC pattern, model view controller pattern, that places a controller or handler somewhere here between the view layer and the domain layer. Today we're going to talk about data layer. So let's look at a few examples, see where those data layer objects are and what they do for us. This is what we've done so far. This is a controller. This is our view layer. The controller is for in between the view layer and business domain layer objects. And here we are at the same use case, which is create a customer. And then we see three data access layer objects. Remember, your business logic objects, those are the things that you care about. Yes, you put them in your domain model class diagram. What's the reason? You want to keep track of them. So if anything happens to them, if they're changed or deleted, or if you create them or you want to read information from there, you have to look into your databases. Yes, that's how you keep track of things that you care about. Now, the three-layer architecture tells us that do not ask the domain layer object to take care of communication with the database. Let's have another layer of objects, and these are in addition to what you had in your domain model class diagram. These are called data access layer objects. Let's have them and put all the details about communicating with the database in those objects. Why do we do that? When we talked about the three-layer architecture, we told you this logic that is in your business logic objects, that doesn't change as often. So the banking system has been more or less the same for the past 100 years. Yes, details, small things change here or there, but the major components are the same. But the databases, they have changed a lot. The view layer, the forms, windows, applications, they have changed a lot. So the same reason is why we want to keep the details of dealing with database platform in different objects, not in your business logic objects. So I have a customer data access layer object, an address data access layer object, and account data access layer objects. And these are the objects, the code inside them or the methods that they have is like creating connection to your platform, opening a file, appending to a file, and all those details that we write when we work with databases. Probably you've seen them when you worked with the databases before. Those SQL queries, opening connections, closing connections, all those details, they go in here. Now here in this specific use case, which is a create customer account, what they do is actually they save information for you. Why? Because this is a new customer, so a new customer object is created in your memory and the information is stored in that object. But eventually, if you want to write that to your database, you have to send that object with all the information that you've gathered. This is AC, a customer, and you have to ask the customer data access layer object to store that information in the database. Now here I have to make sure I have the primary key, I have the right data types, I have found the right table or tables if I have to write to more than one table. So those details, they go in there, and this is the layer that will take care of those details. And I have the right address and I have the right account. So databases, you write to them, you modify things if you need to, you delete them if you need to, and you read from them. Let's look at another example, and this is an example that we use a lot in class. If you needed to read from database, there are two methods. And this is an area that's usually a little confusing for students. Usually we have exam questions on this. What is the deal? One way to read from database is to first have your handler or whoever is in charge to create an object. We call it an empty shell. So you want to know about promotion offering. First, create an empty instance of promotion offering. Obviously, you know for what product and what ID. And then ask that business logic object to read from the database. That's where the actual information is, and fill itself with the information that it needs. So imagine an object with name, price, expiration date, all those details. They're not in this object yet, but the object is created. It's still empty. It reads from the database and it fills itself with the information it needs. So this data access layer object is going to work with the database, get that information, and fill out this information that you need in your memory to make the software do the work that you need to. So keep in mind that you're working of the software, things that are in memory and active, doing things for you, and there is database that stays there. And here's the work: read from the database and copy the information in my object. This is what we call method 1. You don't have to remember method 1 or 2, just remember the process. You create an empty object. Okay, method 2 is a little different. So the object that is initiating is a handler or another object. It talks to the database, and it has to go through your data access layer object. It reads the information about the promotion offering, and then with that information creates a full instance of the object it needs. So this is a card item. It needs to know about promotion offering. So it talks to the data access layer object, reads all the information from database, and then has that information. It has to place it somewhere. Remember, this is object-oriented design. All the information you read, right, they have to be somewhere before they do the work for you. So the information it reads, it goes to an object, and this is how it goes. The data access layer object calls the business logic layer object and asks for a new instance. So here we talk to the data access layer object first, and then create a full business logic object. What I usually do in my face-to-face classes, I ask the students to look at a few examples, and if there is a reading from database, I ask the students to tell me, is it method 1 or method 2? If you don't want to remember the names, method 1 is where you create an empty object and then fill it out with data. Method 2 is when you read from the database, going through your data access layer object, and then create a full instance of your business logic object. So this is another example. Go through it and let me know if it's method 1 or method 2, and I'm going to give you an example. So promotion offering, which we just talked about. Let's see what happens. A card item goes to promotion offering, then reads from database. So this is method 1. And product item, it goes to the object first and then to the database. This is still method 1. It goes to inventory item first and then goes to the database, still method 1. See here, there is another work with the database. Save card item. That is taken care of by card item data access layer object. After you get all the information about the item, you get the promotion offering information you need, you get the product information, you get the inventory information, you save the card item, and that happens after all those steps are completed. You save the card item, and after you do all that for all your items, you save the card here. What I want you to do when you look at the other examples on this PowerPoint slide, just look at the data access layer object and see what they do. Do they read? Do they write? Do they update? Do they delete? I don't think I have examples of deletion. And if they read, what method they're using? Is it method 1, empty shell, database, or method 2, database, full instance? Thank you.